I just
Well, why don't I start
it's
off here, Ted? We broke out into some breakout groups, and we tried to get people to contribute on moving forward with the department, and how do we see contributions from people, how we're going to collaborate, what kind of things do we identify for opportunities in the food system, building community, thoughts and ideas around sustainability, things that we need to work around. So why don't we go around and we'll capture our group leaders, what they had to say, and then if we have some time left, we can have a little bit more input. All right. Keagan, why don't you start us off? Want to give us some of the ideas that were brought up in your group?
Sure. So we had some really good discussion. We had a really interesting group, and one of the big takeaways here, I think, was that there's a real opportunity for our department to focus on this interdisciplinary learning, training, and research. Part of our discussion revolved around the idea that we're kind of this unique department, in that we have food science and nutrition together in the same building. But despite that, there's not always a great understanding of those disciplines. And oftentimes there's a little bit of a barrier from collaborating between the disciplines. So moving forward, that could be a position of strength where we actually have a little bit more interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary training. And that's something that we can engage with across the college as well.
Okay, great. Alissa, what'd your group come up with?
So our group really talked mostly about a really good idea that absolutely touches all areas of the questions that we're looking at. And that was to expand fermentation work. And the idea would be to look at the different types of vegetables and so that would touch agriculture, food system. The idea would also include considering the different cultures that have used fermentation over the years. And so that touches the cultural aspect of what we need to do going forward. And it also touches sustainability and nutrition, because there are health benefits that are provided by consuming fermented products.
That's good. Fermentation has definitely been growing over the last couple decades. It's getting cheaper. It's replacing a lot of things. There's a lot of milk products now that are being fermented. So it's a little bit of a worry on the ag side, I believe, too. So you're right. Fermentation is growing. It could be expanded, not just as a tool to make things cheaper, but expand upon that and bring it into a community-wide perspective and use it as a community builder as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You could easily design projects around, all aspects of that. So the cultural, the nutrition, and, as well as the sustainability in agriculture.
A quick note on fermentation as well. In the realm of cellular agriculture, where you're producing alternative proteins like milk proteins, etc., through fermentation, that's a huge movement in the cellular agriculture field, is fermentation. And so when we get to the point in the next couple of decades when many of our animal products are either coming through cell ag, which is just growing the animal cells, or cloned proteins into yeast to produce gelatin, cheeses, milk, all of that stuff. That's going to be a necessary skill set that students these days need to be trained on, is fermentation, bioreactors, producing food in this alternative method rather than the traditional techniques we currently use. And so that's something we need to look to in the future to make sure our students are trained in that.
Yep, absolutely agree, Drew.
Drew, I have a question. How does that, when we're talking about fermentation and different methods to this food production, how does that relate to environmental concerns and sustainability?
I mean, that's a huge portion of it, is the fact that this is a controlled environment in a facility. You don't get the problems of pathogen introduction. You don't have the off-gassing of animal growth and greenhouse gas emissions. It's a huge step up in sustainability and cost and control. And so this is just obviously a huge emerging field right now. And it is a big part of the sustainability and climate change, how we address that in the next few years.
And just to piggyback off that really quick, Drew, you know, my work right now is taking a look at like the microbiome of our food and how the soil, right, really affects the microbiome of the food grown itself. And is that more nutritious? Do we see those beneficial microbes transferring along sort of like the chain reaction of all the way getting into our mouths and into our guts? So just thinking about those kind of things, like what's the microbiome of our food in ways that the food is grown, I think is a really important question that talks, you know, really thinking about different forms of agriculture.
Okay, good. Great discussion. Melissa, you want to talk about what your group came up with, listed by us?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So we talked about something that's very near and dear to my heart, that is nutrition curriculum and the ways that we need to think about how we are educating students and providing them with opportunities that allow them to be the best representatives of our school, as well as employable, and giving them the skills that they need to move into the 21st century. One of the big points that settled around our discussion was this idea of internships and how internships fit within the nutrition curriculum, the dietetics curriculum. So currently those internships are completed after graduation, after your 4 years. And how might we look at creating experiential learning opportunities built into classes without compromising content? So what would that look like? And as we all know, that the nutrition curriculum is a very packed curriculum. It doesn't leave a lot of opportunity for leaving campus sometimes when you have classes back to back. So what might we need to do to modify class schedules to allow students to have these opportunities? We also had a good point brought up about the cost of these internships. Are often $14,000, which creates a situation that a lot of students they can't do internships because they can't afford internships. And then those who don't do internships then take jobs that make roughly $27,000 a year. So how can we leverage our position within the community to have students out there doing the work that needs to be done, learning from their experiences, and you know, giving them the things that they need to do to be successful graduates?
Sure, yeah. What you talked about reminds me of a marketing technique where they do a customer journey map, trying to get to understand, you know, the insights of the customer and try to understand better what they need to change in a company. It would be interesting to use this in a sense of having a student journey map, trying to understand the students' decisions in day-to-day and how things work and how classes actually fit for them, and if they have a job, and, you know, how student loans, you know, come into this, and then the thought of their future and their career, and having these student journey maps might, you know, might be something new we could utilize, and maybe it's already being done, I'm not sure, but yeah, good thoughts. For our group that I was talking within, the point was being made, nothing about food safety was talked about in the last day and a half. We still think food safety is very important. I think everyone would agree with that. Within the food system, food safety should be a high priority. I think oftentimes when we think of food systems, you know, it's usually about a high quality product, and it's got to be well distributed. And I think food safety is usually there, but we need to continue to think about that. Yesterday it was brought up that the supply chain has been severely affected by the pandemic, and a lot of ingredients have had to be exchanged to continue to make certain products. And so food safety around those new ingredients and being swapped out in formulations has become very important. And so food safety needs to be at the forefront. Points around sustainability, adjusting on the ag side. Sustainability will happen as long as the market is there for the farmer to, or the producer to be able to do that. Sustainability being talked about. We often think and focus around that environmental impact with sustainability, but there's also human sustainability. There's also social sustainability and an economic sustainability. So we have to continue to think a little more broadly around sustainability. There's you could say 4 pillars around sustainability. And we need to keep that idea at the forefront when we start talking about food systems and we move forward and think about how we're going to collaborate and work with others in that part of sustainability that we're going to work on. Talked a little bit about the paradigms within the university and how things are rewarded, and you know, there's a lot of reward on focusing on specific areas rather than the larger systems approach. Today we had a few people like Mindy talk about systems approach. We had some systems talk about yesterday, so that's good, having this broader perspective. We need people to thinking broader. John Finley talked about, you know, you can bring this certain set of skills in, but you will gain certain skills as you go along in your career as well, so you can think more broadly and be able to work with other people if you don't have those skills in a team sense, in a collaborative sense, so that we can get that done. One of the other things we talked about was around the differences between what academics and people in academics understand and what may be happening in the industry. We need a little bit more cross-cultural exposure there, maybe, so people teaching specific things, whether it's learnings or knowledge, how science happens, and are they real world ways of solving problems that are actually happening in industry? Are those problems scalable? So some of this cross-cultural, more of the university working with industry, not just in the sense of trying to capture money and do projects, but really a cultural community building so that we can understand each other better. So it looks like I'm over by about 1 minute. I think this was helpful to get some ideas out. And if there's any other questions, I think we could move into that next session, which Job will be taking over now next.
And I believe Therese as well. Therese, hi. You're muted, Therese.
I can't believe I just did that. Thank you so much to Dave, Keagan, Alissa, and Melissa for that last session and that breakout. What a useful way to gather a lot of feedback. Well, I'll just make a couple of remarks before turning it over to Job. I really want to thank everybody for their participation, both as speakers and facilitators, as well as people joining in to listen and ask questions. And I really hope that our students, our undergrads and our grads, have been inspired to find a place academically to really feel ownership over their major and their academic goals, as well as to start to see where they might fit in professionally down the road a little bit. So grateful for alum to have joined us, and please reach out to colleagues that are in the department or Job or myself to provide any feedback or insights from these sessions, as well as to the Friends of the University and all the other students and joiners. Thank you so much.
Yes, and Therese, I'd like definitely to thank everyone who contributed to the showcase, but in the first place, also you as the coordinator, you've pulled off an amazing event. And we all say, under stress, things get fluid. The department has been running successful showcases in the in-person format for many years. We couldn't do it naturally this spring. And then we had to have to come up with something else. And even though we're operating in a very constrained environment, I must say I felt that this event in this blended format and a remote format today has been really bringing a lot to the table and allowing also people from all over the place to log in and zoom in and contribute and listen. So I think that's great. It wouldn't have happened, however, without that whole team that's been working on this and headed by Therese, pushing things through and making sure that it was happening in these very difficult times with a lot of work and unexpected things happening. That team also made it happen that we could actually be together in this situation as the food science and nutrition community, with our stakeholders, with our students, with our alums, with our partners. And so I'm very grateful to the team, to the support we received also from CFANs with Meredith and colleagues, to really make this a true happening. So I think we're learning also here if we go, I think we'll maintain a lot of the elements of this format for future editions. Again, I would like to stress, and then I'll go some more general remarks at the end, but stress, you know, this platform that we have as that website will keep, and there's still also, there are those poster sessions there, and there is information on projects and community projects and research projects and the pilot plan tour, etc., etc. That's an integral part of this event. You know, it's not that we now close the door and we'll walk out of a center or out of a lecture theater. We have this virtual format, which means we can actually continue to grow it. And that's one of the aims also of the way we've been setting it up. We've been calling it setting the stage. So we've been going a number of these really key areas, you know, in food science and nutrition, relating to the research, to the community, to the learning, to the teaching. And our idea is actually now to take one of these elements, and in one of the upcoming events, we really spend more time on them. So we'll, every half year, every year, we'll have an event which builds up on this one, and we go more in depth into a specific area. And the next one, we can take another element. So instead of having a showcase and the next year have another one, we bring a thematic series into it. So I think that's one of the things which evolves. How do we handle this? And actually, I think we have a really nice way to deal with it. What I very much like from this final discussion is actually actionable items. We talk about the food system. What you hear very often say, yeah, that's very nice, but what does it mean? You know, and I think John Finley said there are multiple definitions. We need to define what it is. And there are multiple food systems. That's actually what Mindy brings to the table. But what I really like here, you know, from this breakout group, that there actually are actionable ideas. You know, fermentation came up, and actually it touches upon all these dimensions. So it's a concrete example in that food system. Food safety was mentioned. Actually, we didn't really delve into it. I fully agree in that. It's an absolutely critical area. We can have food which is appealing, which is nutritious for you, but if it kills you, you know, we haven't gained much. Actually, we have lost a lot. So it's one of these underlying elements that actually impacts all these type of aspects in the food system. So, and that's where I would like to ask all of you to continue to engage in our community, to think about that more holistic view about the food system, but also about that concrete action. That's in teaching. The message from the group this morning was, yes, we need strong disciplinary graduates, but who have that wider perspective, who also know that they don't have the answers to all the questions. You don't know what you don't know. So you have a strong basis in an area and you know how to branch out. Research-wise, we heard that from our professors this morning, say, realizing that they come from an area, but actually how does it really impact it? You need to bring in these other experiences, these other disciplines from the communities, from our industries, from our entrepreneurs within the university. And that's the way I would see the food science and nutrition department, not boxed off. We have nutrition, we have food science, we have the dietetics, but really that open area which permeates into the whole university, what actually President Gable so nicely summarized yesterday. She says, you know, we have food science and nutrition, but actually if you see all the schools, the programs, the colleges, the initiatives that are going on that relate onto food science and nutrition, and how food science and nutrition is central to key elements of health, of community, of sustainability. I think we're in our department in a truly magic place to be interfacing and adding our disciplinary knowledge, but also helping advancing at some moment very, very complex problems. Several people have mentioned wicked problems. Really help them advancing. And a key thing for us, and I think that's an assignment, not an assignment, actually a request more. I think we should be thinking about from that food system, being that open-minded community and really getting to very concrete, doing very concrete steps, making concrete steps to advance that system for the environment, for individuals, for communities, for also, you know, building your lives, you know, where you need to have a business, where you need to have an engagement with things, so that we actually can position food science and nutrition in that sense. I also would like just to briefly reflect at the very end of my my little wrap up here is what President Gabriel also brought forward, and I asked her specifically to reflect about the mission of the University of Minnesota as a premier land-grant university. And I like very much the way she summarized it. It says, inspired by the state, but a world-class level. And at world-class level doesn't mean it should be somewhere else. That was actually what Craig Hassel asked or brought up yesterday, that world-class level can be in our communities, it can be in our research labs, it can be in our lecture theaters, it can be in our companies, but that we operate at that level that we can transform things. And that is what I interpret to be world-class, that we have the quality, we have the engagements, we have the staying power to actually achieve things. But as a land-grant university, that we're first and foremost inspired by the needs in our state, of our society, of our communities, of our natural environment, in helping advance our society in this 21st century, which is not going to be an easy one. And we really see it, especially now this year with the pandemic, but we really help to provide the tools, the insights, and a very open-minded to advance this system. I could talk about this for hours, but I don't think that's the purpose of this.
Yes, he really could. So I'm going to jump in, Joop. I love all your ideas and your enthusiasm for this. We're over time, but I do really need to just mention a thank you to the planning committee, and all of their names will be posted on the website. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Goodbye.
Thank you.